Hello, welcome in. If you're here listening to this podcast, that means you're destined for something great, and we both know it to be true. So without further ado, welcome to the Dark Matter Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. Dev here. So excited to have you with me. And on the trend of last week's episode, I kind of wanted to do it one more time. Now, hear me out. This one is for a pretty special reason. Now, at the time of the release of this episode, it'll be 2 days away from one of my best friend's wedding. Jess, my girlfriend, and myself are flying to Portland, Oregon. I'll be in the wedding party and I'll be giving a speech, so I'm super excited about that. And just based on the response of last week, I feel like I get it. It's raw, it's genuine. It's like this is an actual conversation from a friend. And it's happening in my own personal life. And I know when I started this podcast, yes, of course, I wanted it to be educational and I wanted it to be motivational, empowering. At the same time, I also kind of want it to be for me and something that I can look back on and share with people that are close to me. And people can really resonate with that as well. And I feel like with this episode being so close to my buddy's wedding, it's only fitting that this episode is dedicated to him. So I want to share a little bit about our journey, how we met, and all the exciting things that come with it, how much I appreciate our relationship and him as a whole. And then, of course, I want to share some of his golden gems through the times. I feel like it's just a great it's a great sentiment to one of the most meaningful relationships I've had. So this is my friend. I call him Tilly because in the online space, that's where we met. We actually met when we were learning NFTs. So again, for those longtime listeners of my journey, when I got into NFTs, this is where I actually met Tilly. And it was so funny, I swear. It was like the first month in learning, it was a lot of Discord, right? So it was a lot of Discord chats. And for those of my listeners who are in Discord, we already know what it's like to be in a Discord chat. Being in a Discord chat with tens of thousands of people, the chat doesn't stop. Like for anyone that's just looking at it, you could probably get dizzy because of how fast it moves sometimes. In having this Discord of 40,000 people for this new project coming out, there was a select group of maybe 15 or 20 of us that every time we seen each other, we would just shoot the shit, we'd catch up, we would say some things to each other. And then it was only a matter of time before we actually went and created our own group. And we created this group and Tilly was one of them. There was a bunch of other people and I got along with almost everyone. Tilly was one of those guys that had a lot of great ideas, a lot of great abilities to get things done. I think that was one of the first things that I noticed. It was like, hey, let's create this group. And then within the next hour, it was like done. Created all of the things that you could want in there, clear outlines and indications. And it's just like, wow, this is incredible. He's like, hey, maybe we should start this thing. And like, he's already doing it. He's already putting it forward. So that for me, I really appreciated. And it really stood out as a quality of his as someone who, when he says he's going to do something, did it. Now, for me, it was really funny because although I noticed that all the work he was putting in, I think it took about a month for us to actually finally connect. It was a group of us, right? So we were all kind of chatting. And there was a couple of times where I tried to like at him. I couldn't get through to him. I kind of felt like jealous ex-girlfriend at the time, trying to reach out and say stuff and try to be friends with the guy. And I just felt like he was too cool for me. But, after we did end up connecting and we got along really well, I kind of brought up, I was like, bro, why were you such a dick at the beginning? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I showed him. He's like, bro, I didn't even notice any of that stuff. So it's just kind of funny because I thought, he's just being a dick, but the whole time he just maybe didn't get the notifications or whatever. And I believe it too. It's truly genuine. He's a genuine guy. And so in through that, it was pretty fun. And when we did connect, we got a chance to connect. We started doing a lot of Discord calls and we would just chat, at the time. He's a journeyman lineman. So, the highest credentialed electrician that you could be, and also had an Amazon product. So he was making money on Amazon, FBA. He also had a slew of investments, and he had some precious metals. Like, he was like the pinnacle of what I'd wanted to be. And for those that know my journey and my story, it's like I obviously didn't have any of the experience, any of the knowledge, wasn't trained on any of these things, but this is where I knew I wanted to go. So it's like he brought a lot to the table in terms of like what he was providing, and what I was providing at that point was very interesting, because at that point, well, I was like phenomenal at sales, right? Doing door to door sales. It was so easy for me to start conversation with people, to really motivate them, to really mentor them, to really like, check people, call them out, and be able to, effectively communicate what it is that they're doing wrong when they are doing things wrong, or when they're doing things right, being able to share that. So I think the sales, the leadership, the mentorship, a lot of that stuff. I had tons of courses I was going through at the time too. So we got into this thing where we were actually going through a lot of courses. And I remember the one time he ended up going back home for one of the weekends, and his mom was there, and so I ended up chatting with his mom, Lisa. She's super cool, and we were talking about some of the sales experiences that I had, and some of the objection handles and stuff, because she was in sales at the time too. So it was just really awesome to chat with her, chat with him, and see how a lot of what I had experienced and a lot of value that I brought to the table also was met with reciprocity. It was also met with like, wow, this person understands the value that I bring. Whereas, in the last episode that I shared, sometimes when we, as projectors, we don't get that reception, can be one of those things that kind of deters us, right? But from right away, he was just so understanding. He was very quick to acknowledge things. Like, he spotted the things that were of quality and up to his standard through the years. From November of 2021, that's before I started my first business. We kind of seen each other grow. So from that, of course, most of you guys know that I co-founded my first business, went through some of those things, and then of course left that, started now this new business with Jess and podcasts and all of these other things. I started that after I met him. And then for him, he'd been doing extremely well as well, but now he has a couple of rental properties, and he also is now getting married. So his life evolved in a different way, and I think it's even more valuable than any other investment or real estate or business opportunity that you could have. We had a chance to actually catch up, and it was incredible. A quick thing, like, it's so funny how you can come into someone's life and really just stand out. Tilly has always been someone who had just stood out from anyone that I've ever known. And his mindset, his hustle, his grit, his work ethic, his constant want and drive and need of growth, personal development. Like, he's someone that motivated me to keep going when I was feeling exhausted, and vice versa. And I feel like that's why, even in a short time, even though we've only known each other for a few years, I feel like we both accomplished so much. And not to say that I created everything because of him, or he created the things that he created because of me, but I do feel like having each other in each other's corner, it's like most of the people around us otherwise, they weren't moving that quick. They weren't starting businesses. They weren't trying to move forward. They weren't into personal growth. They weren't going through courses and materials and looking for business opportunities and things that we were doing actively all the time. We were doing goal setting all the time. We had calls all the time. We had plans to start a podcast, start a business. Like, we had all these things, start our own personal brands. We had so many exciting things that we had going on for us. I just feel like with the right people around you, things can really grow, things can really thrive. And that's just kind of how it felt. And that's kind of what happened as soon as we entered each other's lives. And just for me, I'm so grateful for him. And again, he was the one person that really I could go to that was outside of every situation I was in. So he gave me a healthy perspective, but was always on my side. Always looked out for my best interests, but also knew what was just the right and the wrong thing to do. And so I always valued that, and I loved that we could always go back and forth with things. And we always used to talk about how to find the right opportunity, what to look for, and we always did some fun things together. I remember his first Amazon product when he released it. I actually bought it and I showed it to him once I got it, and he was like, "No way!" He was like so happy. And then even for me, we actually played a lot of games too. Damn, like it was so fun when we gamed together. It got to a point where we gaming like a lot. We put in like 6 to 12 hours sometimes. The thing was, a lot of people hear that and they're just like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." But again, we had a group. There was a group of us. There was like 6 to 8 of us, and at any given time, we'd be able to jump in and play with our whole crew. Usually it was like capped out at 4 there, but we had a sick crew, and we would always win, and we were always just doing stuff. It felt like we were there together. But I'm here in Canada. He's there in the U.S. My other friends in the UK, my other friends in Ireland, and we're all here gaming together. Like it was just unreal. And so we all were always together. And so a lot of the philosophies that Tilly had was right now is the time to really get things done. And it's not about how much you lose, right? It's about finding the direction that you want to go and showing up until you get it. And he just had so many great ways to look at things, so many great philosophies. And chatting with him now, it's crazy because, again, I know, and I mentioned it here already, I know his drive, his thirst for growth. And now, the position that he's in, now getting married, just seeing his evolution now in terms of how his perspective shifts, it's incredible. He even mentioned, he's like, it's not about taking the riskier risks that I would have taken maybe before. It's about how do I be more strategic with my planning and knowing how to, instead of focus on what's the next thing that we can get into that we can make money with, it's like, how do I just focus on being happy with where I'm at right now and just being patient and present in the moment. And I think wisdom for way above his age. He's truly incredible when it comes to being able to articulate the things that are kind of both on our minds. But just seeing how the perspective shifts when your priorities change, it's such a healthy reminder that I talk about this so often on the podcast. You really want to reflect often. Reflection is one of the things that you could do every single day. You should be doing it every single day because priorities change, facts change. I had a client before, he was an 8-figure real estate guy. He wanted to grow a coaching business, so he invested into my last business. And he had said, a lot of people think that I changed my mind, but that's not true. What happens is I make a decision, and as the facts change, then I need to reevaluate my decision. So if I make a decision on something and then the facts of that thing change, then of course my decision now has to be reevaluated. And so it's not, I'm not changing my mind, it's facts are changing. That's requiring me to change my mind. And I think when you think about it like that, you realize that every single day things can change. Things can happen that could shift your priority, that could shift your focus, could shift your mindset, your belief, your worldview. Things that matter to you today may not matter to you tomorrow. And I think when you reflect often enough, you realize that your priorities are what's most important. And when you reflect on your priorities, that is what you should be thinking about, keeping at the forefront of your mind. But I think the reality of the situation is when the right people come into your life, things move, things happen. And it doesn't matter how much time passes, it'll always feel like no time had passed. And I know I tell you this all the time, Tilly or Eric, but dude, you're one of my best friends. You have helped me grow, seen me grow, and been part of my growth since you've really, come into my life. And I'm grateful to be even a speck of sand on the beach of what you're creating in your life as well. And grateful, thankful, happy to see everything that's happening, happy to see your continued growth and evolution, excited for all the things that is going on and all the exciting things coming too. And yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to be in your wedding party. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to give a speech as well. I know you guys wanted to keep it, very casual, but I really couldn't pass up the opportunity to express this sort of stuff in front of people that care about you as well. So, yeah, I'm sure you'll listen to this after the wedding. So, congratulations, my friend. And so excited, so happy for you, and grateful for you. The Dark Matter podcast was actually supposed to be us together, but I ended up just jumping on starting it just because our schedules couldn't line up. But yeah, maybe one of these days I'll have to get you on so you can share your side of the story, and you can be here with me as well, my man. So hope you guys appreciated this. You can clearly tell this is someone that means a lot to me. Links down below as always, and as always, y'all, I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe to it all. I appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.